Hello, I'm John Ramsey, and welcome to Louisville Now. Good morning to you. The objective of this show is to champion people who are actively working to improve our city every day. And certainly my first guest is one of those. He is the Executive Director for MSD. His name is Tony Parrott. And Tony, we've chatted before, but welcome back in.
Thank you for having me, John. I appreciate it.
All right, before we get into your very busy spring,
Right.
to say the least, I think we should familiarize folks with exactly what you do, because it's three utilities in one, right, Tony?
That is correct. At MSD, we actually are responsible for wastewater treatment, stormwater and drainage, and also flood protection for Jefferson County. And, we also provide wastewater to Bullitt County and Oldham County as well. So we're three utilities in one, serving three counties in this Louisville metropolitan area. And we take every utility that we're responsible for very seriously, and we are dedicated and committed to providing clean, safe waterways for the community. And just one highlight, particularly with flood protection, back in April, we had the 8th largest flood event in Louisville along the Ohio River. And so we had to really go to all hands on deck.
Yes.
To be able to deal with that. During that flood period, we pumped out approximately 12 billion gallons of water out of the city. That was just a yeoman's effort by the MSD staff. And we're very proud of that, because we're protecting not only the downtown area, but we're also protecting the West End, we're protecting Old Louisville, we're protecting Churchill Downs, we're protecting a lot of areas. And that was in early April, and that was actually just 6 weeks after a smaller flood event in February. So we've had all hands on deck in February and in April to make sure that we could keep the city safe.
Yeah, you mentioned two key words there. You said dedication and commitment. And I think that was really on display during the spring, because this was unusual. This was record breaking. You mentioned two floods, and I think we were all affected in some ways.
Right.
So Tony, as we speak, and yes, thank you for really pointing out your staff and how hard they worked and championing them.
Right.
But your leadership is key here. So where do we stand now as we go into summer, and who knows what the weather brings in this community? But with that being said, where are we as far as recovery efforts?
As far as the recovery from the flood event, we are fortunate that we really didn't have any type of major damage inside the city's flood protection system. But I will tell you that every time we have a major flood event, we do a after event assessment of the flood protection system itself. And what we do know is that there's significant damage to some pumps that we're responsible for. We have 16 major flood pump stations and 27 miles of levee that we're responsible for along the Ohio River. So after that flood event, we have to do an assessment. And what we have found out is that we have some major repairs that we have to make to some of our flood pump stations. For example, I think there's approximately 10 or so pumps that are going to either have to be repaired or replaced. And it's going to cost us anywhere between $10 and $13 million to be able to address that. And also, when we run those flood pump stations, we have to pay a surcharge on our electric bill for the next 12 months. So that $10 to $13 million additional cost wasn't budgeted for. So now we got to figure out how we're going to make sure that we prioritize dealing with the flood protection system, making sure the system is ready when it's needed. And then, of course, that's going to impact, because now we have to push other projects out because we didn't have that $10 to $13 million budgeted.
Yeah, Tony, after talking to you, I became educated, and now I'm very happy to pay my MSD bill. So let's talk a little bit about your budget. You touched upon the fact that we're talking about huge dollars, not only for new facilities or whatever it takes to, but also to maintain the other facilities' structure. And when you have a flood like that, I'm sure there's massive damage. So your budget, how do you juggle that?
Well, an example for like our fiscal year 26 proposed budget, our capital program is approximately $321 million. And that sounds like a lot of money. But I can tell you that 90% of that is required either by regulatory requirements or federal mandates. And so it doesn't leave a whole lot left for us to be able to address those other needs of the system, i.e. flood protection, emergency projects, those type of things. The 90%, we have some very large projects that are under construction right now. And because they're so large, they're budgeted in phases. And so we've already initiated a large construction project at our Morris Foreman wastewater treatment plant. That's a biosolids replacement project. And that project was approximately $280 million. So next year, there's going to be about $83 million budgeted for just continuing work on that project. Or construction has started, should be wrapping up in 27. We have another very large project for our flood protection system at Patty's Run, another 3-year project where that project was estimated around $240 million. So we've budgeted in about $73 million to make sure we can continue completing that construction. And so when you think about the totality of what we do in the 90%, it doesn't leave a whole lot left to deal with emergency projects. It doesn't deal with a whole lot left to deal with the flood protection projects that I just mentioned that we got to do. And people may be familiar, particularly if you're close to the mayor's office. We had a emergency project right on 5th Street, right outside the mayor's office that wasn't budgeted, but we had to prioritize that and make sure that we do that work and get that sewer back in service. That sewer dated back to like 1860 and hadn't been exposed since then. So we had to do that sewer repair. It wasn't in the budget. And so we have to juggle things that way to where we're making sure we're prioritizing and we're addressing priority needs. And, you know, unfortunately, it does leave little money for maintenance of the system.
Interesting. So here's what, it's not as if you don't have enough on your plate.
Right.
But from what I understand, you also seek alternative funding.
That is correct.
Okay, so talk a little bit about that, because I think people don't realize that,
Yeah.
you know, hey, we're not just dependent on the public.
Sure.
And your bills that come in. You
Right.
need more than that.
That is
So
correct.
talk about that. Talk about Tony Parrott as a fundraiser.
Well, you know, one of the things that we always are tapped into is what funds we can try to get that are either going to lower the cost to the ratepayers, or is it going to be some grants or free money that will help us long term as well. So as it relates to, say, low interest loans that we qualify for through the state revolving loan fund, we try to make sure we're tapping that to make sure that we can get loans at a lower interest rate than we can if we went to the bond market. So I can tell you that with all the active projects that we have going right now, we have over $200 million of low interest loans that we've been able to secure from the state. And we've also had significant amount of federal grant monies, at least over $18 million of grant money for the Patty's Run project, for example. That's free money. And then we also are still working to figure out how we can even get more through the partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers. So we've got some agreements lined up with the Army Corps of Engineers. So some of the work that we're doing on Patty's Run and some of the other areas, we may get future credit for cost sharing from the federal government if we're able to get money through any type of federal grants for the flood protection system. We're working diligently with Senator McConnell's office. We're working diligently with Representative McGarvey's office and others to try to make sure that we can get some of those large dollar federal grants for flood protection projects in the future. And we're very optimistic that that's going to pay off for us in the long run.
For folks who are watching Louisville Now, I don't want to be alarmist or cryptic, but it seems that every time I turn on the TV, there is a story about a shortage of water somewhere in the country. Here in Louisville, we're very fortunate. We have the Ohio River.
Right.
And I also think it's important to talk about your commitment to clean water.
Yes.
Because we take it a little bit for granted here. Sure. We are fortunate, as I said, but that commitment remains regardless of flood, weather conditions.
Right.
I know that's very important to you, Tony.
It is very important, and not only with, you know, say like the Ohio River, but we also may want to make sure that some of the localized streams like Beargrass Creek and some of the other streams inside Jefferson County, that we're improving water quality as we do all of this work. An example would be, folks may remember a couple of years ago, we did a waterway protection tunnel. That was a huge project that cost us over $230 million. that project has been in service. And that right now we have eliminated approximately 6 billion gallons of combined sewer overflows from entering Beargrass Creek or the Ohio River. And the benefit to that is that we're seeing an improvement in water quality in the Ohio River and Beargrass Creek. And then we still have work that we're going to be doing through 2035 that's going to further eliminate what we call sanitary sewer overflows that may be occurring in our system. So every project that we do, we try to prioritize it to make sure that there's going to be an outcome or a benefit that's going to improve water quality and also public health as well.
Tony, with all that's on your plate, I'm amazed at the fact, for the most part, and this is actually a compliment, I don't even realize what you do because my life is going on very smoothly. I think for the majority of us, that's the case. No, don't get me wrong. Every once in a while with this flooding, it's flood conditions, and when you get that kind of rain, there's always going to be issues.
Sure.
But I have to compliment you on the fact that, for the most part, I don't know you exist, and that's a good thing. That's because you're doing your job. Your employees are doing their job.
Yeah, like I said before, our employees are dedicated, and whether it's a flood event or whether it's a major rain event or a power outage or any type of bad weather, our folks are on the job 24/7 to make sure that all of our systems, all of our assets are working, because people don't want to go to the bathroom and flush and things aren't going away, right? So we take pride in that, and I can tell you that one of our biggest challenges right now is aging infrastructure. And so understanding that with only, maybe 10% of our capital dedicated to addressing emergencies and maintenance needs, it's a major concern for us, a real challenge for us, because we have to make sure we stay on top of those major preventative maintenance and maintenance of the wastewater treatment plants, and also the major sewer lines that take stormwater and drainage away from our neighborhoods. So it's a tough balance, and we try to prioritize those works through our asset management program.
Before I let you go, Tony, there's another topic I want to talk about. You have spent a lot of time, which is the sign of a good leader, talking about your employees and thanking them for their hard work. And I do think that's important. And I think here on Louisville Now, we'd also like to make folks aware of the economic impact you have on this community in terms of jobs.
Yes.
There are a lot of employees, a lot of people that you employ with good paying jobs, and they are helping the community. It's rewarding.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We have over 700 employees that work for MSD in our 3 utilities, and they're very, very competent and very talented individuals. Our assets protect a lot of different, it brings economic value to the city of Louisville. For example, we're protecting probably over 500,000 jobs that actually exist because of our flood protection system. And we also make sure that we are protecting that, that payday or that gross domestic product and the payday of about $95 million a day. And then we also protect about $34 billion worth of property with our flood protection system. So they're very vital assets. They're very large projects. It's a very complex operation. And a lot of times people, they don't understand things because of the complexity. All they hear is, oh, well, my sewer bill is going to go up. And so, but we try to minimize those impacts as much as possible. This year we've had to make some cuts. We've had to defer some projects. And, our rate increase is going to come in a little lower than it has historically. So we're looking at every ways we can cut costs and be efficient.
All right. Tony, I want to thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. And keep us updated, okay?
I will.
Because I'm sure we're going to have more weather catastrophes, unfortunately. Sure. And we certainly love to hear and be educated by you and your MSD staff.
Good deal.
Once again, you're watching Louisville Live, and we are Louisville Now, and we are absolutely live. Coming up, we're going to talk about a program from the Office for Women. Gretchen Hunt will be our guest, and we'll talk to her. We'll take a little break, and we'll be right back on Louisville Now.